Hello and welcome, movie lovers. We are Gone with the Real. I'm Lisa.
And I'm Sarah.
And we are two sisters who love watching movies and talking about movies. Today we're going to talk about the 1944 film Gaslight.
You better go to your room.
What are you going to do?
I'm going out to work and forget all this.
No, please don't leave me here all by myself now. I get so frightened when I'm here alone and you go out night after night.
Frightened? You never told me that before.
But I'm telling you now, I'm frightened of the house. I hear noises and footsteps. I imagine things that there are people over the house.
So basically, this movie inspired psychologists to come up with a word for when someone is slowly grooming you into questioning your reality. So this is actually quite common, but they never actually classified it as a kind of a type of psychological abuse until this movie. So that's what makes this movie so famous.
Yeah, it literally kind of coined the term gaslighting. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm sure everyone has either heard of it or felt like it's happened to them at some point in their lives. Yeah, I have here the definition from the Oxford English Dictionary. And gaslight is to manipulate a person by psychological means into questioning his or her own sanity. And if you look at the etymology, it says, the title of George Cukor's 1944 film Gaslight, in which a man psychologically manipulates his wife into believing that she is going insane. So literally in this dictionary definition, it's saying, oh, yep, here's where that word comes from. This movie right here. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, because it's a complex, I think it's interesting that they just didn't have, I mean, obviously we're humans. This has happened. Like, people have been doing this since they've been able to verbally talk to each other probably, but they didn't really have like a name for it until this movie came out. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So Gaslight is a psychological thriller directed by George Cukor. It was released in 1944, and it stars Charles Boyer as Gregory and Ingrid Bergman as Paula. And we also have Joseph Cotton playing the inspector, Cameron. So in this movie, we have a husband and wife, Gregory and Paula. They elope after having a quick whirlwind romance, and they're very happy. But they move into their new home, and when they move in, Gregory starts gaslighting Paula into believing she's misplacing things, being forgetful, stealing, and convincing her that she is not well. And it should also be noted that the home that they're living in was inherited by Paula, and it is the place where Paula's aunt was murdered. Paula's aunt was a famous opera singer, and the murderer has never been found. And so that is the setup for the movie Gaslight. Mm-hmm. Okay, a little bit of history or facts about the movie. It was based on a play written in 1938 by Patrick Hamilton. He's a British playwright and novelist. He also happened to write the play Rope, which was later made into a movie by Hitchcock. But so after the play in London, there was a British movie that came out in 1940 called Gaslight. Yeah, the first film adaptation. And that was directed by Thorold Dickinson. And then in 1941, the story of Gaslight made its way to America. It was staged on Broadway, but it was called Angel Street. And it starred Vincent Price and Judith Evelyn. And Vincent Price also helped to get the play staged in New York because he saw it in London and then he really liked it. But okay, so it's playing on Broadway, 1941. And then 1944, we have the movie that we're talking about today. MGM made the movie Gaslight. And it was very expensive for them to acquire the filming rights for the movie. Apparently it was $150,000. I was very I read that and I was
very
like,
popular.
is that adjusted for inflation or not? But yeah, the play was very popular. It still is. There were also reported rumors that MGM tried to destroy all the copies of the British 1940 film. Or,
What?
yeah, I know, right? Or rumors that, like, in the contract, when they bought the rights, it said, like, oh, you have to get rid of all the copies. But those are rumors, and whether that's true or not, the 1940 movie is still out there, regardless. And in 1944, when MGM's Gaslight came out, that American movie was released in Britain under the title of The Murder on Thornton Square, so in order to not confuse with the 1940 British movie. So I just found it kind of crazy that this really cool story has all gone by so many different names. It's Gaslight, Angel Street, and The Murder on Thornton Square. I think I might have said street earlier. The Murder on Thornton Square. But today, if you ever hear the play Gaslight or Angel Street is being performed near you, you can go watch it because those are both the same story. And the movie that we are talking, even though we talked about all these different adaptations, the movie that we are talking about today that came out in 1944 is the most popular version, and it's the most culturally impactful version.
So is it known by both names then? Currently? Like in the UK?
Right now,
they don't call it?
Pretty much Gaslight and Angel Street. Like if it's going to be performed...
Angel Street?
Yeah, if it's going to be performed live, it might be called Gaslight or Angel Street or both. I've seen some posters that have both names.
Oh, because that is the name of the street. It's called Angel Street, right? Where she lives. That's why it's called that?
Oh, no, I thought it's called Thornton. In the movie, it says Thornton Square.
No, you're right. It's Thornton Square.
Yeah.
So where does the angel come from?
I don't know. I think they just changed the name of the street. I think maybe they were like, well, if there was a murder here in the story, let's call it Angel Street. It does sound a little mysterious.
Yeah.
But
whatever.
Yeah, I'm glad that they went with the name Gaslight for the MGM movie. I think that was also part of when they signed the contract and acquired the rights to make the movie. I think they had to do it under the original name. Yeah, it's fascinating.
Interesting.
So, Ingrid Bergman, who's a star in this movie, almost did not get to play the role. She was under contract to Selznick at the time, and when Ingrid saw Angel Street being performed on Broadway, she really wanted to play the role in a movie. But Selznick would not buy the rights unless she agreed to change her contract, which she said no. And later, when MGM acquired the rights, Selznick almost didn't lend her out unless she got top billing, because Charles Boyer, the leading man in the movie, he wanted top billing. Anyway, so that's a little fun fact. But Ingrid Bergman finally, she got the role because she basically begged Selznick to let her play in the movie, which is amazing because she got to win her first Academy Award, her first Best Actress Award.
Oh, she got it from Gaslight?
Yeah, from Gaslight, yeah.
Oh, okay.
She was nominated the year before for Whom the Bell Tolls. But, so yeah, this is her first Academy Award win. And Gaslight also won Best Art Direction. And that went to Cedric Gibbons, who actually holds the most Academy Awards. He holds the record for the most Oscars for production design. He was nominated for 39 awards and won 11 in his lifetime. So,
wow,
I know, impressive, right? Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of awards. Is art direction, how's that different from...
Art direction is basically production design.
Oh, okay.
That's what they changed the title of the Oscar to production design. But basically, yeah, the whole the set, the how the house looks and everything, it's very fitting that he won that award because
I mean, visually, like the setting, and also I was going to talk about later the costumes, like everything is just nice to look at in that
Yeah.
film. And even like the black and white, I don't know if it's just like my memory of like how like the fuzz, like, you know how in different years you have different levels of fuzz. I feel like it was perfect for that movie. And so it's just kind of like dreamy-ish, I don't know, and the black and white, and then all the like costumes and the design. So when I watched it, which I mean, I was kind of looking at it critically this time than all the other times I've seen it. I'm just like, just hanging out and watching it. I was appreciating it a lot more than when I first saw it. So it's understandable. It won a lot of awards.
Yeah, because for the audiences watching it then, they're watching it in the 40s, and it's a period piece. The story takes place in the 1880s, so they're getting to see like the past kind of brought to life, and in that whole it's not a house. I guess they call it a house. The design for the house is great, and the square. It just takes you right back. I mean, not that I've been there, but you can imagine it. It's okay, so in total, Gaslight received 7 Academy Award nominations, and the other nominations were for Best Picture, Best Actor, Supporting Actress, Screenplay, and Cinematography in black and white. And Angela Lansbury, who plays Nancy, one of the maids in the movie, this was her debut acting role, and at the time, she was only 17, yet this was her first Academy Award nomination for ever, and it was for supporting actress. And she also happened to score a contract with MGM because of this movie. And maybe modern day audiences might recognize her from Murderer, She Wrote, and she's also the voice of Mrs. Potts in Disney's Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, she's been
doing tons of
acting
movies.
for forever.
I know. Yeah. She goes way back.
Stop. Yeah.
So it's really cool to see like how she started out, and it's amazing. Really impressive. I was shocked when I found out that she was only
just
17 playing this role. That is...
She doesn't look 17.
No, she doesn't look 17. Also, this looks like, I would guess, this is her 4th movie. This person looks very experienced, but okay. And that concludes the history and the fun facts.
Yeah,
alrighty.
So for now. Yeah. So, okay, going into the movie. So basically, in the beginning, there's a little clip of Paula. She's young and she's leaving her aunt's house. Her aunt had been murdered, but then it quickly fast forwards to when she's an adult, and she lives in Italy, and she's falling in love with this man named Gregory, and it's very fast. She's, I think, what was it? Was it a month, Sarah, that they were in love?
Yeah,
something
I
like
think
that.
it was like 2 weeks or
Was it 2
something.
weeks?
It's quick.
2 weeks.
It's a quick.
Oh, okay.
She falls in love quick. Yeah.
Really, really quickly. And she moves into her aunt's house that she lived with when she was little, who was murdered. And her aunt was this famous singer who sang for royalty and was just very internationally known. So that's where we start in the film. And so Paula... Go ahead and did you want to introduce Paula, Sarah?
Well, starting off, because it opens with her leaving since her aunt is murdered and she goes and she moves to Italy, right? And then you see her as an adult there in Italy. Just knowing that whole opening where like she just comes from trauma. Yeah. the character, poor Paula, she has so much baggage that she's carrying with her. And no, I just felt...
She grows up to be so nice, too. She's just this nice person.
She's really nice, and then she's fallen in love. But I did want to say, I know I said it was the end of the fun facts, but I do have another fun fact now.
Okay.
So while Paula is briefly in Italy, she's kind of training with this guy. His name is Maestro Guardi. She's taking singing lessons, opera singing lessons, because her aunt was an opera singer. But the fun fact I wanted to mention was that Ingrid Bergman's father actually wanted her to be an opera singer.
Really? Okay.
But she became a big famous actress, not an opera singer.
Yeah, she was good at that one scene where she was singing. She was doing okay.
Yeah. So that's that explains a lot, because she did take I'm sure she took singing lessons and everything. And so it was really cool seeing that. So after she's briefly in Italy, where she meets Gregory, who they fall in love, have the whirlwind romance, they move into that house where her aunt was murdered because Paula inherited it. And by now we're feeling out the two main characters here. And from the very beginning, Gregory kind of has, even though they're sweet and she's very smitten by him, there are definitely red flags.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they definitely make it known that he's a bad guy. Like, I mean, they chose Charles Boyer. Yeah. He's like Vincent Price, actually. When you said Vincent Price, you said he financed the plays in the U.S. or he brought it to the U.S.
Yeah.
I was like, Vincent Price would be perfect for this role. Yeah. I mean,
and he did play it. He did play it on Broadway when it first staged. So yeah, Charles Boyer. He is
also bad guy face.
He's a bad guy. He has a bad guy face. He ends up, I mean, it transforms throughout the movie. It gets worse and worse, but he does scare me. He scares me quite a bit. Beginning. Yeah, kind of from the beginning. Because when he starts saying, oh, my dream is to live out our lives in London in a little square. And it's like spot on the nose, exactly where
that she owns that house in the square.
She owns one. And so, yeah. That's suspicious and a little eerie, and Paula is so, we know that she comes from this backstory of trauma, yet she is so in love with Gregory that she's just willing to throw all that away and be like, I can face anything with you. So she's just very smitten and blinded by this love.
So okay. I think the contrast between the two is just so good because she's how would I say this? She's just a very like kind of I wouldn't say plump, maybe just kind of like very soft features. So she kind of looks like a very naive and like in general, when you look at her, your first impression is that. And then with his first impression is because he has such an intense face. So I think the contrast just made like them both exaggerate like both of their personalities even more. So that was a good selection in actors.
Yeah, because there's moments where you're like, where is the chemistry between them? But that's kind of supposed to be the point where it does feel like they're both kind of clashing against each other. But regardless, you see how much Paula is in love with Gregory. But right before they move into their house, there is a scene where they reunite at a train station. And this was actually the first scene shot for the entire movie. And because I was reading Ingrid Bergman's autobiography, and she said that she always asked directors to please not make the first scene that we film a love scene.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. And yet, what did they schedule? They scheduled this like train station scene where she kisses Gregory in that. And so when they were filming that, once again, Ingrid Bergman is a little bit taller than some of the male actors she plays with. So Charles Boyer had to stand on a box. When she kissed him. And also when she was describing the scene that they filmed, she talked about how she had to run up to him and hug and embrace him. Although that's not in the movie. In the movie, she turns around and he's there. So imagine just like your first day of shooting and
they put you in a box.
No. And you, not only is it supposed to be, you have to run up and hug and kiss your significant other, and also he's on a box. And she was saying like that they got the giggles. They were just laughing, but they're supposed to be passionately in love. So I guess that's a better scenario than like other love scenes.
Yeah, you could get a lot more intense in the beginning. I mean, I don't know how the rules are, but yeah, I didn't even notice. Like they look supernatural. Like it. I wouldn't even have guessed that. Yeah, but I mean that's why they're actors. They're good at their job. So
also, I forgot to mention that Ingrid also, when she described filming with Charles Boyer, She referred to him as having velvety eyes, and how she was really excited to be in the movie with him. That was like another reason that she was begging Selznick, like, please let me be. No, well, yeah,
she thought he was handsome. And that's why. Yeah.
Well, he was a big name actor. So.
Well,
yeah,
velvety eyes. I mean, like, come on. Like, she's obviously, like, if she says velvety eyes, like...
That's true. Maybe she did a little crush, yeah.
She does, I mean, she's very... in all the movies we've seen with Ingrid Bergman, she's very... it's just very believable that she's in love with all the people. Maybe not so much the one from... Under Capricorn, which we didn't record. Yeah, that one. But all the other ones that... she's it's very believable. She's just has a romantic vibe to her. So
it's true.
Yeah.
She's very, maybe she just has connections with other people, other actors. She's very that's really cool. So now that Paula and Gregory have moved into their home in London, there's a few other supporting characters in this movie. There is a kind of a nosy neighbor who she's like
comedic relief, but it's like she's not that funny. But like,
I think she's funny.
I mean, she's just random lady. It's a super like mystery film, and then she's just this old lady just popping up saying hello, like. Well. Exactly. So I think she keeps saying that.
Yeah, that's her quotes. That's what she says in the movie. But maybe the movie was... The stuff that's in this movie is pretty intense, so maybe they needed to lighten it up just a little bit. So you have this nosy neighbor who, she's actually very important to the role, because then she notices some things about the relationship between them, because she's so nosy, she notices later that something is off. But
yeah, and she shares it with people that something is off. I think that's what helps them too. Yeah,
yeah,
she's
exactly.
The gossiping skills help them out. Yeah.
So, all right. So nosy neighbor becomes helpful neighbor. Anyway, her name is Bessie. Even though when she first meets Paula, the main character, when Bessie first meets Paula, she says, "Oh, my brother calls me bloodthirsty Bessie," because she likes to read. These like murder stories and everything, and she also happens to know a little bit about the murder that took place in that square, which is the house that Paul and Gregory are living in now. So, yeah. So that's Bessie, the nosy neighbor, and early on in the movie, we're also introduced to Elizabeth and Nancy. Elizabeth is the cook that is hired by Gregory, and she is deaf on one ear. And Nancy is Nancy's a housemaid. Oh, Elizabeth is played by Barbara Everest, and Nancy, as we mentioned, is played by Angela Lansbury. And Nancy is very young, and she's a bit flirtatious, and so basically Gregory hires her to make Paula uncomfortable, and also to make me uncomfortable.
Make you uncomfortable.
Definitely rises the tension because when the gaslighting starts and you have Nancy, who is already making Paula uncomfortable, it makes Paula feel even more not in control, like she's losing authority. Yeah. Even though Nancy is still a compelling character, but she definitely adds to the drama a lot, and the tension. Yeah, there was also one more character, but maybe we'll mention him in a little bit. Whenever, there is the inspector, but
inspector, he'll come soon.
But
he'll come right in the middle part. Yeah. So in the more into the story, we start seeing some weird behavior from Gregory. So first he was like super in love, always nice to Paula. But then he starts randomly kind of being angry and then happy and angry. And basically what he's doing is he's grooming Paula. He's also actually grooming Elizabeth and Nancy to think that Paula has something wrong with her. She's basically losing her mind. So that's basically what as we mentioned before, the term gaslighting is. Basically, in gaslighting, you do very small things. Like you start very small. Like what Gregory does is he keeps reminding her verbally, remember you lose things. Keep it like, don't lose it. Remember you lose things, even though she doesn't really lose anything. But kind of like repeating, saying these little phrases kind of like gets into your head. Also isolating someone, which is also what Gregory does to Paula. Make sure that she doesn't have influence from the outside world. And that way she'll just see him as the authority figure. Also, along with the happy and loviness, let's turn it up a notch to like more of like rage and love bombing, where you're super angry if they go against something that they mention. So Gregory, for example, he flies off the handle when she wants to basically have the nosy neighbor is going to come over and talk to her. Like, he doesn't want that. He wants her to keep isolated. And then he suddenly gets super angry. And then after that, once she's gone, the nosy neighbor, he gets very lovey and he says, oh, I was going to take you to the theater. That's why I did that. And so, that's why. Like, this is systematically done so that the person thinks that the person still loves them very much. And any nice thing they do for them is basically very loving, because all you're getting now at this point are scraps. You're getting after the rage, but you just want it so much. You want to be loved that you'll take it. So basically, he goes up and down with his emotions, manipulating her. And with Elizabeth and Nancy, he also gaslights these people by just telling them, oh, she's sick. And in psychology terms, because I've read about this before. They're
tell
called,
us.
They're what
are they called?
Flying monkeys.
Oh.
That's what so flying monkeys basically are, like the minions from the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
That's basically it's basically if you can get all these people around you to agree in this reality, then it validates what the person is saying. Like, it's not just me.
God.
Other people are saying this as well. Therefore, I'm wrong and he's right, or she's right, the person that's manipulating, because they have all these flying monkeys around them. So that is the role of Elizabeth and Nancy for Gregory, is to make sure she's only surrounded by his minions that believe in what he's saying. So basically,
that's really intense.
Heavy stuff,
Yeah.
But that's basically what goes down with Gregory and Paula. Go ahead, Sarah.
I didn't know. So is love bombing also a word, like in psychology? Yeah, that's when you like just throw a bunch of love at a person, like because he goes back and forth, and now he's like, oh, I love you so much, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, love bombing is basically if you want someone to do something for you, you give them an insane amount of love for them to do it, or you do it what he does it in a systematic way where you get angry and then like very lovey and then angry again to show that like, what am I doing wrong? Like I want that love again, that love bombing. Like you kind of starve them of that love bomb because it feels so good.
Right.
So people
God.
So it's a way of someone like just really wanting someone's approval. I think they have there's like for guys learning to like talk to girls and stuff, there's the same kind of like go back and forth to make them want more or whatever. But basically this is for more of a situation of just you want someone to think a certain way, and that's how you're going to do it, by manipulating, but with happiness and sadness. How they think.
Even just, I mean, because we've already watched the movie, even just hearing you describe all of these different types of like emotions or things that, I didn't know there were terms for, aside from the gaslighting. It's like, it's already making me feel uncomfortable just sitting here. I think, also just because it reminds me so much in the movie, the way I feel like the way Gregory does it, the way Charles Boyer pulls it off, he is just like the original gaslighter.
He
really
takes,
scary. Like the way that he goes, that you were talking about, from one emotion to the other, to just these flip-flopping back and forth, and he does it so quickly and it's so believable that it just makes you feel so uncomfortable that just it's scary. It just makes you think of any toxic relationship. It's, oh no. And he's the instigator, and just I get scared.
And Paula was basically she was love bombed. It's still love bombing, because in the beginning when he like falls in love with her, because he's doing that for a malicious intent, or to get her to do something, right? So in that sense, like, he's giving her an overabundance, like basically he worships her, and for that purpose, for her to fall deeply in love with him. I think she just trusts him so much, she can't imagine that this guy is actually doing this to her. Like, it's hard. That's why I think she doesn't figure it out, because it's hard for her to process that this man actually doesn't, like, she just believes he's that man that she met in the beginning, and like, he can't possibly be doing anything bad to me. So it's really sad to watch that.
I mean, it's sad. It's because she's a normal person. She's just a normal
she's
person,
totally normal.
like, with some trauma, and he is absolutely taking advantage of that. And so that's why you can't help but relate to Paula, because, she's a normal person just like you and I, and how we're audience members. The person you don't expect the person that you love to do something like that to you. And so she's definitely very compelling, seeing poor Paula suffer. But also, it's that situation again where, like, you want to look at what you want it to end, but also you have to know how it ends, so you can't look away. But we've been talking about how the term gaslighting came from this movie, but we haven't mentioned the actual gaslight in the movie yet.
That makes sense. Okay, so the reason why it's called Gaslight, it sounds a random, like, a gaslight. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
go for it, Sarah.
sure. No,
why is it called that?
So, I mean, since, like, the movie takes place late 1800s, right? And back then, it's not until around 1925 that half of American homes have electricity in their houses. So back then, you would use some form of gaslight for the lights on the streets, or for the lights in your home, or you would use candles. And so basically in Gregory and Paula's house, there are gas lights that are lit by gas. And so basically whenever one of those lights is lit in the house, it kind of, the more gas lights you light, they start dimming, basically. And so when Paula is alone in the house, because Gregory goes out at night he says he goes out to work because he's a pianist, composer. And so Paula is alone in the house, and yet the gas light starts dimming. And she asks the other maids, and she asks Elizabeth and Nancy, who else is in this house? The lights keep going down. And they say, oh, no one else is here. I didn't notice anything. And so it's just these gas lights that are literally another thing that is tormenting Paula as she sees it dim, and it's in the middle of the night while Gregory, her husband, is not there, and she's just left in her fear just watching these lights. And so that is why it is called Gaslight, and therefore gaslighting. It's scary, man.
Yeah. So yeah, what's scary about it is it's really like the fact that, like, when you see in her mind that she no longer, like, she actually thinks she's losing her mind, and you feel just so terrible for her, because you know that, like, it can't, like, she's not losing her mind, she's a sane person, but she ends up believing, like, she's the only one that sees the gaslight go down. and she's just going insane, along with the noises that she hears upstairs, which her deaf cook, Elizabeth, can't hear. So she doesn't just get that, she never gets that validation that any of these, the gaslight or the footsteps are even happening. So she thinks she's losing it. Yeah, so I think that's the devastating part where she actually falls apart and she believes, yes, I'm hearing and seeing things. But in the movie, about like, she still, when she hasn't quite like completely lost it, in the sense of like completely thinks she can't see anyone, and needs to hide and because she's crazy. But before that, she meets a detective. What was his name again?
His name is Brian Cameron, but we can call him Cameron because I think that's what they call him. Yeah.
Brian Cameron. Actually, she never meets him. You're right. She never. Or you didn't even ask that. She doesn't meet him. She just sees him, and he follows her, like what's happening to her.
Oh well, in the end. She meets him in the end. Spoiler. Well, okay. We always forget to say this, but this is not a spoiler-free podcast. But we will mention before we're going to talk about the ending. But yeah, you brought up Brian Cameron. He's the inspector. He notices something is off about the house, and as a child, he used to know he knew Paula's aunt, and so he sees Paula and kind of recognizes her, and she looks familiar, and so that's what sets him off. One of the things that sets him off about the house is that they're just very peculiar. And as the nosy neighbor tells we kept calling her nosy neighbor.
Nosy neighbor.
I'll call her that still. The nosy neighbor tells
call her that.
Tells Cameron, who's the inspector, that like, oh, that's that couple that they never go out. They never do anything. They're kind of weird. She's always ill. She doesn't go for walks. She doesn't do anything. But so we do. Cameron is following. He's kind of following he's got an eye on them the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
go ahead. Go ahead.
This isn't that random, but I wanted to mention it before I forget. I just have to say, after I finished watching this movie, that I heard my neighbors upstairs walking.
You did not,
and it scared me. I just have to, because Paula hears like the footsteps or you're like, who is up there? Like, who's on top of the house? And then for a second, I just completely forgot that I have upstairs neighbors. So I heard that initial sound, those steps, which makes me think that like, the sound design in the movie is done really well because it's actual footsteps, and that's exactly what it sounded like. The sound, like the sounds in the movie, except we're coming from the ceiling. Anyway, spooked
That's
me.
very coincidental, Sarah.
No. Well, not that. Okay, I think it's just cool. Anyway.
Okay.
So moving on.
This is
It was
fun.
Cameron. Okay, now we are going to talk about the ending of the film. So if you found anything that we talked about interesting and you want to watch the movie, this would be the perfect point to watch the movie and come back. Or you can just listen.
Yes.
All right. Now we can talk about the ending.
All right. So in the end, we find out what's happening here. Why is Gregory gaslighting Paula? What is his purpose for doing this? And so we find out that Gregory is actually a cat burglar, and that his aunt had these crown jewels that were given to her by foreign royalty. And he has been searching for these jewels his whole life, and he's actually the murderer of her aunt. Mm-hmm. So we find this out, and this is done through Cameron, a mix of Cameron and the fact that very night when this is all revealed, he finds the jewels. So basically what he had done is he boarded up the attic with all her belongings every night, was searching for the jewels. And that same night...
With all the aunt's belongings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. With all the aunt's belongings, correct. And so that same night was the night that Cameron decided, I I'm going to go and I'm going to talk to her and we're going to find out what's going on. And when Cameron's searching her house, Paula, who thinks she's so sick, she's like, please don't, my husband's going to get upset and I'm very sick. But then she finds all these objects that her husband said that she had lost or even made up because there was a letter that she read that he didn't want her to think about because he wrote that letter to her aunt. And he said, oh, you made that letter up. You never actually read a letter. You were looking into the air. And so that's an example of what he would do to her. But she sees the letter because Cameron had gone into his room and opened up his desk. And she's realizing that something's wrong. And that and Cameron reveals it's your husband. Your husband is making you feel like you're going crazy. And at that point in time, coincidentally, Gregory is rummaging through all this stuff and he finds one of her aunt's costumes, her most famous costume for her most famous opera, and on her costume are the jewels. And so he's super happy. He met his goal and he goes back home, and then there's the confrontation. So what happens in the confrontation?
Well, okay, so wait, you stopped at the jewels, right? Where he found the jewels.
Yeah, he found the jewels. So there's a staircase
I think
scene.
we're thinking of two different moments as the confrontation, because there is there's a moment where Cameron confronts Gregory with the accusation of like, it was you murdered Alice Alquist, the opera singer, and also you are gaslighting or tricking your wife, and you have been searching for these jewels all along. And so Cameron basically, they get into a fight, and Cameron ties up Gregory, and they've solved the mystery now. And Paula is now free from Gregory. But what I took as the confrontation that I really love is the moment where now Paula has finally realized all of the tricks, all of the gaslighting that Gregory has done to her, right? That it was all a lie. And we get this really cool scene where Paula is... Gregory is sitting in a chair tied up, and Paula is standing over her. And she just gets to make this huge speech, and she kind of talks in the same kind of language that Gregory would talk to her of like... Because Gregory asks her, cut me free with this knife over here. And then Paula says, what knife? Oh, I am your mad wife. And she just she just pops off on him. And it's really, really satisfying getting a moment like that, because I feel like in some old movies you don't always get that kind of scene where the woman gets to finally say like, you did this to me and how dare you, and she just tells him off right there. And it's a great confrontation scene, and it also mirrors in the beginning of the movie when they were on their honeymoon in Italy, as part of like the what gave me eerie feelings was when Gregory was talking to Paula and kind of holding her head in his hands, and it's on a kind of a flight of stairs, and Gregory is the one who has like the higher ground, and then Paula is down lower, and so he's kind of looking down at her, and then you get bam, flip-flop. Now that Paula has won, she is the one with the power. She is like, you basically there you go. It's a power transformation or flip-flop, that she is the one holding the power now, and he no longer controls her, and it's really satisfying. And also getting to see Ingrid Bergman interpret that whole scene is amazing.
Yeah, I think that Ingrid Bergman, she's like, I think that this is her best film. I try to think of a better film with Ingrid Bergman. I've always loved this one the most. I always thought she acted the best. She was the most beautiful in this film. Like, I thought she was just gorgeous with her dresses that they were designed for her. Like she just looked really good. I don't know. I just feel like this was just the perfect role for her, like I mentioned before, because of the way she looks and the way she acts. To be in this role with contrast with someone like Charles Boyer is it was really fun to watch. And I think what was very satisfying in that end scene was that she finally could release all that anxiety, like because you can see the anxiety build, and then it was just released right at the end. Like she got her closure. He actually said, "You're not mad," which I think is good. Like he actually like said that. Obviously, it was so that she would release him, but at least he said that. And he also said, which I think was interesting. Well, I just thought, like, I just imagined, I'm not a cat burglar, but I imagine someone who is fascinated by like stealing jewels. I mean, honestly, I don't know a lot of history about people who steal jewels, but I just don't know. But I like in that scene where he said that I'm not sure exactly what he said, but he definitely made it sound like he never intended to do anything to her. It's just that he wanted those jewels. Those jewels were always a fire inside him that he just needed to have his whole life, and she was in the way. So I think also with that, even though obviously, I mean, he tortured her, but he also was in a way trying to say that he was sorry in the sense of like, sorry that you got in my way, basically. I didn't go out to like just personally hurt you. I just really wanted those jewels. So I think that saying that also gave her closure, because she realizes, oh, he never loved me. And so it's not like she has anything to like hold on to. She can just let it all go. So it's just a big weight just lifted off your shoulders in the end. Seeing her realize, okay, he didn't love me, that's fine, and I'm not crazy, that's good. So it ends like that, and you're just yeah.
That's a good thing to find out, right? That you're actually healthy, that like it's not you. I mean, it's not me, it's you. But no, I think it's you. That is what he said in the ending when he said it to her, of the oh, it was the jewels, it wasn't really you. And he says it in a very he says it almost like he's in a trance, and that he couldn't help himself with these jewels. And I remember when in the scenes when Inspector Cameron is trying to reopen the case of the murder of Alice Alquist, the opera singer, right? They were talking about these jewels that she had, and the inspector's boss mentioned that like they could never find them, but I wonder who would try to steal them, because these are very, very important crown jewels. They would be immediately recognizable. You wouldn't really be able to sell them, like, because you would know that they're stolen. And so basically they're saying it's pointless. So famous. Yeah, because they're so famous. And so that kind of, when you find out that it is Gregory, Paula's husband, who did this all along, it just makes you realize, oh, he's kind of crazy. Yeah, he's in love with the jewels. He's crazy for the jewels. That is what is wrong with him. Anyway, yeah. Oh, I didn't know that was called cat burglary. Is it because it's shiny?
Actually, you know what? Maybe I'm just not called that. No. A cat burglar is anyone who goes into someone's house like sneakily, like a cat, like cat burglar. But it's when you get people's personal belongings. But you know what? Maybe they're just a jewel thief in general, because
he is still a cat burglar, because Gregory was her home. Yeah, he was sneaking into their own house and looking for the jewels in the attic where everything was blocked off. But
yeah, so I guess you would just be like a jewel thief, and it's like that's a category under, if you were to be a cat burglar, you're going to someone's house. So but so it's not the cat burglar isn't just for jewels. So yeah.
Okay. Well, I was gonna say when Paula does find out that after everything is revealed, and now we finally know that like it was Gregory all along, the footsteps that she was hearing above her, and the gaslights turning dimming was Gregory upstairs looking for the jewels. When they revealed that, I had this thought of like, okay, because the way he's looking for these jewels is he's tossing everything around frantically and cutting things open, and he's got gloves on. It's very dramatic. And I was just thinking, wow, very typical of a man. He's searching for something. Why doesn't he just organize everything, like, I don't know, alphabetically, dust everything off, and just like, but if he is infatuated with these jewels, then that's how he would look for them.
He's ripping things open.
Yeah.
I also thought, like, because Cameron did say, the detective did say, oh, he wanted, like, the goal, like, to having people think you're going mad is that if you're sent away, he'll be able to just have you gone, and you can just search up for the jewels out in the open in the house. I thought to myself, well, if all of the ant stuff was there already, why didn't he just try and go into the empty house at night on his own? And you know what I'm saying?
Like unload everything into the empty house, or what do you mean?
No,
or like what?
Yeah, no. I mean, like there's the house. So they get when they get there, all of the ant stuff is put into the attic. Mm-hmm. But what he could have done is, if he didn't marry Paula, he could have gone through the back way like he did before of the house number 5, gone to the house number, and then just gone. You know what I'm saying?
No.
He could have he just did it on his own, just like all those years, like no one's gonna probably hear him. Maybe he was too risky, but he could have just searched on his own. Yeah.
That's true, because because you got that nosy neighbor walking around. She would see him.
Yeah. She'll see them.
Like
okay, that won't work. You're right. Nosy neighbor's gonna. Right. She's a very helpful part of the community. She informs everyone what's going on.
She's the HOA.
She's the HOA. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's not gonna get past the nosy neighbor. Okay.
It does make it easier.
Won't work.
Yeah, it does make it easier if you just own the house that you're trying to search. But
it does.
Nosy neighbor as well. Well, I wanted to mention, because when we were talking about watching Gaslight earlier, and you said that when I would watch it, it would all come back to me, because I hadn't seen it in a really, really long time, since I was little. And the moment where I did start remembering, or that seemed the most familiar, was toward the ending. Any of the shots, whenever, because you have Paula and the bedroom. When Paula leaves the bedroom, it's always like upstairs on the highest floor. I think there's like, it looks like 3 floors or something, very big house. Whenever she looks down and she screams for help from Elizabeth. And you have and she has the camera. The camera looks down, like straight down the staircase, and then straight above, and it's just the designs of the staircase, and just those 2 shots, looking straight down and straight up. That's totally what brought me back a little bit. That is my aha moment. That I've been calling it my aha moment. Is the moment where I remember of these movies.
Not till the end. I've seen that movie so many times when I was little. You didn't remember?
No. Okay. You watched it a whole bunch?
I've watched it so many times. I'm surprised it took you till the end for it to come back to you. But it's okay. I mean, I'm just curious because I've seen it so many times.
It's just that's just the moment that was the strongest to me, where, I mean, in general, if I watch anything that has Ingrid Bergman, to me, it's just always going to feel familiar, or any other actors or actresses that we know, especially Angela Lansbury, of course. But I really like those moments where I just kind of remember it clearly, and it makes me happy. So that was what made me remember those specific shots of the... So once again, art direction, best Academy Award for production design. There you go.
No. All right.
Gonna forget that. But
so concluding thoughts, Sarah.
Oh, we're at the concluding thoughts already? I thought you were gonna.
I think so.
That's it.
Oh, what?
I thought you wanted to talk about costume or something, or.
Oh yeah. Okay. So with costumes, actually, I looked up. I was mentioning earlier that I thought Ingrid Bergman looked very beautiful, and the reason I said that is because when I was little, like when did I first see it? When I was like 10.
I always thought,
yeah.
Oh.
I always remembered her beautiful dress that she goes out when she goes to the concert. That white dress, and her hair has flowers in it. And it just fit her so well. And I remember seeing that. I was like, oh, I hope one day I'm as beautiful as Ingrid Bergman in that dress. So I just thought that dress was so beautiful. It's a bit busty, She brings out brings out her curves. I thought it was very beautiful. And actually, the person that designed that, she was a very famous costume designer, or just clothes designer in the film industry. I forget her name. I know her name was like Irene, and actually she's so famous. You know how you have people that go by one names?
Yeah.
Like she went by one name, like Irene. Like people didn't, like if you go on Wikipedia, like I think she's under like one name. She did a lot of dresses for a lot of famous ladies, including I think Rita Hayworth and Ginger Rogers. But throughout the whole film, she wears very detailed, very what do you call it? Very roughly dresses, but that one is the most beautiful. And actually, I also have to share with you, Sarah, a color version of the opera dress.
What? Who made that?
Yeah, they have. I don't know, but I don't know if she made it.
Wait. That's actually a prop? That's the actual prop?
Yeah, that's the actual prop. So I don't know who has it. I was looking at costumes.
You had. Oh, well. So do you think that's a remake or the actual one?
Do I think? I don't know. I'll have to. Maybe
it definitely looks like it. Yeah.
I think that's the original one. Yeah, the original remake of the opera dress. But I'm not sure if Irene designed that one. But yeah, I'm very, very much. That's as stood out to me when I was very young, is her beautiful dresses. But yeah, other than that, concluding thoughts on why you should watch this film. So I personally watched this film on my own, not even like, I know for this podcast we've been watching certain movies, but I watch this movie about once every year or 2 years, because I just really am entertained the whole time, and I'm like, oh, I haven't seen Gaslight in a while, and I just think the acting is so good, and I don't know, every time I watch it I feel so satisfied. So I would definitely just watch it as just to kind of get to know, like, if you're gonna watch one Ingrid Bergman film, you should watch this one. That's what I'm saying. You should watch this one. And also, if you're wondering if someone is gaslighting you in your life, you will very clearly know it after you watch this film, because it might be subtle. It might not be as like, oh, they think the person's making you think there's someone upstairs and not like there's footsteps and you're crazy, but it could just be very subtle things like, oh, for example, like this is like if you can't get that job because of blank, 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 and they just, people kind of like tell you things, and it's not just one thing, but if it adds up, like for example, if someone's reminding you like, oh, remember that you did this wrong this one time, and it subtly it builds up for you feeling like not confident, like you can't make your own decisions, and then you think that what they're saying is always like, oh yeah, you're right and I'm wrong. So it's just I know it's kind of sexist for me to say, but in the field of psychology, a lot of men do this to women to keep them kind of like, make sure that they're the decision makers in the household. And so I think that it's good to know what this is, and hopefully this isn't happening to you. But it could.
PSA.
Anyway. Yeah.
No, that's fair enough. Yeah, I agree. I agree on every aspect. Also, just for like cultural sake, pop culture's sake, as that is where the term gaslighting comes from. You can watch this movie, be thoroughly entertained, watch Ingrid Bergman, and it's a look into psychology. Definitely, it's like when you're watching it, it looks so obvious of what's happening, the gaslighting, but to the people that it's actually happening to. You might not be able to recognize it.
It's basically you make someone feel uncomfortable and that they can't trust their own instincts. And that's kind of like in the movie when also Nancy, the maid, played by Angela Lansbury. That's, even though it seems like a kind of a silly thing, like, oh, why is she freaking out? It's just when you know someone, you know their triggers, you know what makes them uncomfortable. So you know how to make them feel like they feel anxiety all the time and can't make their own decisions. So I basically, if you feel anxiety a lot, it's good to look into it. But yeah,
and you can watch this.
I should be a psychologist. No,
You could be, yeah.
Just kidding.
One last thing. I mean, you know a lot. I didn't know any of those other terms, the flying monkeys and stuff. It's like I thought they were all just to drive her more crazy, which it does, but also the reaffirmation aspect is I didn't know that. But I wanted to end with there's a quote in the ending of the movie that I really liked. Is that after everything is finally over and Paula is free from her husband, and Cameron says, "In the morning when the sun rises, sometimes it's hard to believe there ever was a night." Which is really nice because that sums up Paula has finally
moved on.
She has overcome her trauma from the past and the trauma of now, and she has prevailed. And it's beautiful.
Yeah. And she'll be fine. Because she has good instincts. I feel like in the beginning when she wanted to, like, leave him, like, and have some space for a little while and he didn't let her, like, that's good instincts. So I think she'll be just fine because she has good instincts. She's smart and a healthy person. So,
okay. So that concludes our podcast. We hope you enjoyed yourself. You can check the description of this episode to find out what movie we'll be watching next. So you can watch it ahead of time and join us for our chat if you would like. Thanks for listening with us today. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Lisa.
And this has been Gone with the Real.